on.
Hold on. All right, moving on sports.
Moving on sports, episode 10.
Woo!
Congratulations. I can't believe we made it. How exciting. The big 1-0. Sam, how we doing? Mid-February now. We just finished the Super Bowl. What did you think? The NFL season is over.
I think it was a good year, right? Kind of a like a surprising year, but a typical year, I would say. It was. I feel almost that the NFL has gotten too big, and maybe I'm just the contrarian in me is just reacting to it, where it's just the NFL gets so much hype, so much viewership. It's just such a cultural touch point. Where everyone just is really into it, most popular sport on earth, that I'm kind of like just not as interested in it. And maybe just the season's longer, Chiefs being in it again, the Packers losing. I don't know. It just felt kind of like corporate and uninspired to me.
Yeah. I think they did set the record by a couple million for biggest views ever, which is kind of surprising considering it was pretty lopsided game.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I went to bed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was late, and I was just like, I don't really care anymore. And yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of the Chiefs. It's a little bit of the Eagles. I don't know. There's something just kind of missing about it. I don't know if it's our time in our life or something, but maybe it is a longer season, and it's funny because they're trying to make it even longer now. So. The game though, I thought Mahomes and Reed would be a little better prepared for the Eagles defense, just because I thought, that defense line's going to dominate. So what do you do to attack it? Not that there are a lot of great options. I think one of the beauties is so they never blitz the entire game, the Eagles defense. They're just getting incredible pressure with 4 guys. And when you can drop 7 guys back into coverage or play zone, play man, mix it up, run stop. I mean, Zach Bond's playing incredible all year. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough no matter what you do, I guess. So, yeah, they kind of just had to play really mistake-free football. And I think one of Mahomes' weaknesses is he is kind of eventually he's going to just kind of run around and try to make plays. He's not a guy who just it's tough for these guys just to take a couple yards every time. And yeah, eventually you get a couple sacks, you get banged up a little bit, and all of a sudden you're behind the sticks, and then you're down 24-0, and you're screwed.
Yeah, I saw one thing where for Mahomes, where if his there's kind of a lot of weird stats that came out. If his O-line has more than one or more holding call in I don't know if it's playoff or Super Bowl specific, but something like that, he loses every single game. One where
that's crazy.
Yeah, right. One where just looking through the years, his I don't know if it was QB rating or just it was a lot of different factors. One, his time to throw was up, and then yards per attempt, and QB rating just is every single year it's kind of gone down. And this was on Reddit, and I don't remember exactly what kind of the conclusion was. But there was this famous. This is getting really in the weeds, but there's this famous Reddit post, 5 years ago, where this guy went, and it was all about if you take Mahomes and regress him towards the mean, he's just an average quarterback. And it's kind of duh, right? If you remove all the things that make him amazing, he's just going to be average. And it just everyone just got clowned on. It became kind of one of those stupid inside Reddit jokes. But it's kind of funny that he all this super exciting, special stuff it's kind of falling off, and he is regressing towards the mean. So it's this guy is kind of a prophet in a way. Definitely could tell that Kelsey just seems older, right? I think he had maybe a couple catches. He had some big time drops. Just if he's not able to find that soft spot in the zone, be that outlet for Mahomes, it just kind of doesn't work. And I think we kind of underrate how like not only how good Kelsey is, but just how much value he brought in terms of he was like a top 3 wide receiver, but paid as like a top 50 wide receiver, right? Because he was a tight end. So he's just such on a cheap, a team friendly deal that you could build around him, right? And I think like we look at the Chiefs, right? So I kind of view this as like the Bears indirectly caused the Super Bowl, right? Where they pass over Jalen Carter, it goes to Eagles. They pass over Mahomes, he goes to the Chiefs. It's like the Super Bowl is like the bizarro world of what the Bears could be if they had Mahomes, Jalen Carter. You know, I mean, right? It's a butterfly effect, but I just kind of wanted to do it, dig at the Bears there. But I don't know, just really kudos to the Eagles. Like you said, right? That if you can get home with 4, you basically win, and that's I think that just provides the template of the modern NFL that you know that's what you need to do, and you need the front of the D line.
It's funny with the NFL because we analyze the hell out of it, and you know, the game changes so much. But at the end of the day, it's like, does it really?
Yeah,
it really really all is just the line of scrimmage. Like it's just who's bigger and stronger, who's gonna get after the quarterback, and who's gonna
trenches. Trenches is the only thing that matters.
The Eagles' offensive line played awesome too, and like I think Hurts is the man. I mean, I thought some of the hate he got this year was just kind of weird. I thought a lot of it was just like discussion, and he hit some great deep balls to AJ Brown. He hit the 4th down one, which was like clutch. The running ability, just everything he does, his like I think something too about him, just like the calm, cool, collected in those big moments. It's just nice to have like a guy like that. But when you have 5 guys in front of you who are just blocking their asses off too, and like taking a lot of pride in it. Yeah, and then you got Saquon, it's like, and Goddard, like it's just such a well-oiled machine, their team. Like they've really just built an incredible roster. And if they can bring back Vaughn and a couple of the guys, I mean, I think they could compete for a couple of years here. They'll have to pay some guys eventually. Like getting Devontae Smith, even like that's a Heisman Trophy winner, and he's your second guy, and like he always comes up super clutch. AJ Brown's a little more like bigger and physical, but then you got Devontae just route running, cutting people up, and then Jahan Dotson had a couple nice plays too. Is your third. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I was really impressed by the Eagles overall, and they rolled. But I will say my biggest takeaway, and this is kind of a homer take, the Packers are back, man.
Yeah.
We are so like, it's like last year, you know, the Niners thing. We lose to the Niners, they go to the Super Bowl. Same thing. Like we are right there. And I'm really excited. I'm excited because there's all these rumors, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Devontae. You know, whatever happens, I'm just cool with like running it, drafting who we draft. Obviously, we're gonna sign a couple guys, but because we got money. But I'm like kind of happy with where we're at right now as a team.
Yeah, and kind of interesting where you could tell the Chiefs' plan, right, was we're not letting Saquon beat us. And I knew that, and I profited on it. I feel really good about that. But and it kind of like running back, it's like it's just NFL is just full circle, right? It's like chess, right? You do something strength, the team counteracts it. It's like what's your counter punch, and it just keeps going on. And it almost kind of proved that you need the threat of a good running back, but to win the big game, you need it's still QB, right? Like, and I think this was kind of just a great NFL game to prove, like, and this is a big thing with Hurts, like keep the main thing, and it still was. Trenches, defense wins championships, have a QB that doesn't make mistakes, and special teams, and you win. Play cool, calm, and collected. Kind of interesting, like I don't know, like the refs really in the beginning. It felt like that big kind of OPI play at the beginning of the game, like set the tone where there was like a big Chiefs thing where they didn't get the call, and I think it just got in the refs' head a little bit. Like I guess we kind of talk about this, but not really. But like for the refs, that's like their big game too, that they're on edge, right? And I think they're more prone to, the sways of like not momentum, but like, okay, they make one call. I think they're going to be more going the other way to have that big thing of fairness, especially with all the talk about being the Chiefs. I think that plays an issue too. And also just Eagles being hungry, right? That, and kind of just really impressive for, I mean, Howie Roseman. I kind of loathe to give him his flowers, but winning 2 Super Bowls with completely different rosters, QBs, defense, coaches, in the first 2 Super Bowls in Eagles history is, just really impressive. Kudos to him. Like, sure, he went out and paid. You can nitpick, like, oh, he had some people fall to him, but like, he's gotten the guys. He built like elite talent, right? Elite talent wins the games. I don't know, like more on the cultural thing. I thought like the commercials were kind of funny, but just I don't know, maybe it's the rise of AI, maybe just America just doesn't seem to know what's funny anymore. We're kind of the pendulum shifting from like the woke DEI diversity angle to like, okay, are we going full into like 90s humor with sex jokes, really attractive women, being crude. Like, I don't know if we're going to go there, but it just seems like America doesn't really know where it's landing humor wise. And kind of like one that stood out to me was the Sealed commercial with Mountain Dew. I thought was pretty funny. Just like the absurdness, I think maybe is going to be where we're heading, where use AI, just create like absurd stuff. And we just kind of go down that path. In the halftime show, I don't know. I just feel like rap is just kind of sucky live, where you just can't really understand what they're saying. And I don't know, America just kind of like sing along stuff. And I think rap is not really conducive to that. So I don't know. I mean, visually it was pretty cool, but it was just kind of.
I thought the commercials were like very corporate, and they definitely are swinging. They're trying to do. It's funny, like because along with the point you're making. There's also like this. There was like this anti-America, and now it's like this pro-America,
but not too pro-America.
But it's weird. Yeah. It's I don't know. It just seems fake, and like I don't know. It just I think they're just overthinking all of it, to be honest, and just let some good writers. Like there's great funny writers out there. There's great like Severance. You talk about like making a joke about corporate America, right? Like there's awesome creativity in America. Just let people wing it. And then you got like Kanye just doing insanity. Horrible. So I don't even know how that happened. So weird commercials just got weird. They're just not like what I used to be. We used to like watch them in class, we'd like talk about them and it was great. And like I remember the Doritos commercials forever were always so funny, and like it was something you looked forward to. Even in the AFC and NFC championships, it would like be building up. And now it's just like, I don't know. And part of it is like people have just freaked out so much over them, and there's so much talk about them. People are scared to do anything, and they would rather just. But I don't know if it's worth the $8 million anymore or whatever it is.
I don't know. And maybe it's just like it's just too saturated, because we're just advertised too much, where it's just hard to like create a like a niche, right? Like it used to be like, oh, this is cool, but now I think, like that's the pendulum has shifted. It's like there's multiple different pendulums crisscrossing each other, and the other one is like, I think just the corporation, like we're just kind of anti-big corporate when it's obvious, and like I think people realize like, oh, if you're on the left, like you were on my side for all this, like, all these issues, and now like we have a different president. Now you're not really on my side anymore. And I saw studies where like the people that feel that actually the people that feel that the most acutely is the left, right? Where if you're on my side, like that's almost to be expected and you're going to get a little bit of bump, but if you're not on my side, I'm going to really dislike you. So it's kind of a lose-lose for these big corporations. And it just kind of like showed like why take a political stand. Like I get why, because then you get all the love and it's like this cycle of like, oh, I get to feel good about myself and connect with the younger generation, chase that, prime demo that you're looking for. But you're not really looking at the long-term game of, okay, when that political culture shifts, where are you going to be left standing, right? And I think, it just goes back to what Jordan said, right? Republicans buy shoes too, and the more you stay away from politics and realize that it changes very quickly. We just as a country just always seem to forget how quickly politics change. I mean, just gay marriage approval went from like 20% approval into like 80% within the span of like 5-6 years. And like that is just mind blowing to me. How quickly that changed. Even abortion, right? You know, it's just like that's changed really quickly, or all that stuff. I don't know.
It's wild too, because I actually was going through it the other day, and I was like, conservatives are like 5 years behind liberals.
Yep. And that's kind of the nature of the party, right?
It's kind of just like five. It's just like, yeah, just like a little slower.
Yep.
But it's funny because the conversation between the two is like they're complete opposite all the time. And it's like, well, they're just like taking things a little bit slower. But like, I don't know, you talk about gay marriage, like 2008, no president was for gay marriage. 2016, both presidents are for gay marriage. So
yeah, like Obama famously was against it, you know?
Yeah, for the first term. So it's like, it's, I don't know, it's just, it is weird. I don't like corporations getting into it too. To be honest, I feel kind of weird when they, I don't know, like I don't think it works on me personally. Like when I see someone like come over to a different side, I'm like, well,
it's like pander. Yeah, it's a pander too. It's like you're a bandwagon fan. Yeah. Like, oh, now you're jumping on my team, but you weren't there to begin with. Like, sure, I'll be there at the party with you, but I'm not gonna really hang out with you that much, you know. Like I'll tolerate you, but I'm not gonna be a really good friend of yours.
Yeah, it's weird, and I don't really get it. I don't know if it's like they're just worried about tariffs or what the hell, but yeah, who knows with these corporations? Corporations are just so weird nowadays, and it's like the analytics and everything going in the decision making. It's just getting weirder and weirder, and it's moving faster. And I don't know. I'm having a hard time keeping up with it all. Honestly.
I even think just even talking about like Bud Light, right? How they went super middle America, you know, horse walk into a bar, you know, just like just to be like, I don't know, probably a couple of years. Or maybe they were talking about in school. Maybe it's a little too close to it, but go from middle America, Clydesdales, you know, have that ranch farmer ethos, kind of like Yellowstone vibe, right? Then you had a tranny do it for, you know, like a year, and it's like all freak out, and it's like, oh, we lost all this market share. We really got to go back to the Clydesdales, Yellowstone thing, you know. Just it's like that blip where it's like, you know, what the fuck happened in here?
Colin Shane Gillis. Quick.
Yeah, right. You know, and it seems like it's working. You know, I'm kind of like, you know, these are funny commercials. You know, like I can feel myself slowly being like, oh, okay, Bud Light it's over. You know, I'm kind of over.
It's an American company, whatever.
Yeah, right. You know, like it's quintessential America where you have a little bit of a freak out. You do something kind of batshit insane, and we get all up in arms. But I think we're a pretty forgiving country. You know, where it's like. All right.
Time heals all wounds.
Yeah.
It is funny. We're just in a funny, weird time period. I would just say weird time period. But yeah, I thought the halftime show. I'm with you. I just have a hard time like hearing rap, and to be honest, rap is like its own culture that I just world that I just do not live in. But I was looking up like some things or just reading about some things like. Serena Williams. So Serena Williams like dated Drake, and then she's trip walking. I don't know. That was supposed to be kind of a flex on Drake. I mean, this was one weird thing. Kendrick sings that. So him and Drake have this huge beef, right? Yeah. And Kendrick sings that song, pretty much calling Drake a pedophile in front of 120 million people. Like that's kind of a wild thing to do. You know, like
even her chain, right? Was I saw this is a lowercase a, right? A minor.
Oh shit. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Part of me, like when I think about that, though, I'm like, you know, you're at maybe one of the biggest singular moments of your career.
The biggest, right?
And you're kind of focusing on someone else. I think that's a little kind of weak. Like you should just be focused on your own music and like your own sharing it with the fans and spreading your own. And I guess you want to like use it to, and he did push some other messages too, like I'm sure, but it's kind of weird that becomes such a big part of it and everyone's talking about it. And I don't really care either way. Like Drake, I don't really listen to either of them. So I do think though, like what you're saying, I don't have the best ear for rap. I like more of the beats with rap, but I have like no idea what's going on half the time. My ears aren't good anyway, so.
Well, interesting too about like Serena thing, right? So she's married to the former like one of the former CEOs of Reddit, which is just funny to me. Like, just really nerdy white guy. And like, if you're him, like, what are you feeling, right? That, oh, this is so important to my wife that like an ex-fling that go on stage and like rub it in his face that I'm over you, you know? It just, I mean, that's like mega cuck vibes. And also too, that
don't you over me for him a long time?
yeah, one of the Williams sisters got killed by a Crip, and like now you're like doing their dance, you know? And I'm just like, I don't know. That just all of that just feels wrong. That it's yeah, like you said, it's just so petty and vindictive, and like okay, I guess these people just aren't over their past slights, and maybe because these slights kind of get them the stage right, and it's kind of it seems like this I don't know, like ancient Greek tale, right? Of like just downfall that you have all the success in the world, but you're the weight over your neck is still that you can't get over past wrongs. And but that's also brought you to like he's been like super popular with all those other songs, but you know, that's kind of relaunched him with this, you know, Drake beef. And it's like, okay, I wouldn't be as successful if I didn't have this beef, and probably still likes Drake, and Drake probably likes him because he's still, you know, get the cultural prominence. And it's also weird because these guys are like, you know, getting their 40s and they're still trying to be like young and, you know, like, oh, with it. And it's just at like what point do you just like it feels like rap is just the one genre where, you know, like once you get to a certain point, it just feels weird, right? Like it's a young man's game, young woman's game. And you're like this old guy doing all this like rap stuff. It just, you know, it just looks weird, you know?
One thing is that, have you ever heard, did Drake ever say, like, has he ever responded or what?
I don't know. I think so, but like I'm not in the weeds on that. And I'm also trying to figure out like what's the prime demographic for this? Is it like 20-year-old people like are really into this, you know? But they seem more into like the Chappelle Roan, like the really weird mumble rapper type people. I guess it's just like who is the prime like demographic? And actually I know like friend that we had over, her significant other is like really about this and like kind of like a progressive middle-aged white guy, and that seems like the prime rap audience is progressive middle-aged white people, to try to be like culturally relevant. And that's just that's just a weird pairing to me, you know.
That's actually hilarious.
I'm not gonna go too deep in it because I have a lot of thoughts that I'm trying to just in case this gets out, you know. But I don't know, it's just all this yeah, it's just weird, right? It's just weird. But
I will say there's probably a part of it that's like a little virtue signaling.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, you know, like, oh, this is such a good, you know, like so quality in the lyrics. And it's like, you know, it's like the emperor has no clothes. That's what the feeling I get is like, sure, it's cool and it's visually appealing, you know, but like this compared to Rihanna, like Rihanna was good. You know, I like her songs. She's a good performer. It's just objectively good, right? You can understand what she's saying. They're good songs. And it's like, I think that's more people of all leanings, colors can like that. But then it just seems like this, where it's like almost the worse it is, the more people have to feel like to back it up because, you know, they feel like they need it, right? You know? Yeah. That's a good point.
Interesting. All right. Moving on, Super Bowl. Until we'll do a little draft in a couple months, but it's
kind of cool. It's at Lambeau.
Yeah, very cool. I'm excited. Hopefully, we'll have Myles Garrett reading out our first round draft pick,
or Micah Parsons. I don't know, either or. A lot of big edge guys.
Osby, Devontae, Aaron Rodgers, 2 quarterbacks.
I can see Aaron Rodgers like Raiders. That kind of makes sense. Or Viking. I mean, Vikings just the funniest, but I think they're gonna roll with JJ.
Oh, this is a hilarious slide.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna read this out for our podcast listeners. So moving on to colonialism ? Is it really bad? Liberia, Haiti, Gaza. Okay, I think this actually is a great debate. Colonialism, is it really bad? No. I think 2 things. There are times when people have colonized other areas and they've just pretty much like slavery, right? Bad. And or like pretty much whatever the king of Belgium was doing.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That guy was Leopold, he was a dick.
Yeah. Psycho. He was running, I didn't know this until like, I want to say like 1940s. He was running human zoos. So he'd
Yeah,
like bring
yeah,
people from
yeah,
Africa,
yeah.
put them in a zoo, and people would like pay tickets to like look. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, I think someone should do like a horror movie about him. You know, just like a horror biopic. I think would be such a interesting thing, right? Like, because I think we're kind of in the Napoleon biopic thing, but like kind of with the horror vibes of, you know,
I
like
like
kind of like Get Out, like a Get Out type of biopic. I think would just be really interesting.
people need to know about. Like you talk
Yeah,
about, learning about bad history to not. I mean, I don't think anyone is going to. Hopefully, no one repeats that. But also just like the taking of all the natural resources. That's the other big part too. So you're destroying the people. You're destroying. It's extremely corrupt, and then you're like paying off high level officials, and you're getting natural resources to sell off, and then a lot of times today it's like child labor, right?
mm-hmm.
So, or slave labor, almost low wages. So is it good? There have been times where you've just like brought um a more like organized society, I would say, to places that just kind of helps things flow because you can invest in countries that maybe just don't have these connections or just haven't gotten to that place where they're, I mean, for whatever reason, right? So they need investment to build so that they can extract the resources. It's not easy to like go underground and take this stuff out and then process it. So, I think there's kind of a balance with colonialism. What do you think?
Yeah, I think colonialism is like the modern day version of it that we actually see is like gentrification, right? Where, yeah, you know, you can see, like, I think you can look at, if you just look at, and it's kind of our conversation too, where people are really good and get really emotional at like what actually happens, right? The tangible current day. Someone has lived there all their life, probably don't own property or renters, you know, like don't, or maybe they own the land, but they're not fully utilizing land to like the objective best value of it, right?
Sure.
Someone comes in, realizes, okay, we can make this better. Like that's like a white man's, you know, like whatever better. And like that part of that, I kind of agree with, right? Like our economic system under capitalism, like is better. Better is just worth more, but is that really worth more? And just kind of the conversation of, you know, how is like one culture really better than the other, and like what goals are you trying to do? And I think that's kind of an interesting discussion that is not like we just kind of take for granted that, you know, being rich, like something increasing in money is just automatically better, right? But is it kind of really, you know, I don't know. But so you take that, you remove, like these people get to place and it's like not their fault, right? But eventually, like if they own land, they get to sell it for more than they ever could. And sure, they get priced out, but like, you know, that's just the nature of the world, right? You make some money, people come in, they want it, it makes it like, and then provides more taxes to the area, you know, then you could have more resources for underprivileged people. So like the end result is everyone kind of wins for it, but like the process to get there, like the end result is like theoretical, right? Like we know that it will likely, happen. That it will lift all boats, but people just think, oh, you know, all these citizens get are losing their stuff or get displaced, and like that sucks for them. And like what actually, like what it will lead to is, you know, like like kind of theoretical. And so I don't put stake in that. I don't really care about what's happening to these people, and so whatever. And I think colonialism the same way. And I think we also forget that throughout basically 99% of human history, humans went to war with each other, killed each other, tried to get each other's women, you know, pillage. You know, it was just war, conquest. And that's how it was, right? You know, it's like really Darwinianism. And only recently have we been able to be like, okay, The infirmed people, can survive and get state resources. Like I saw an interesting thing where to know like a society is really like advanced or like postmodernist is like how many homeless people it has. Because if you go to a poor place, there's not homeless people because they die, they just die. Or they're like shunted out to somewhere, like California is like one of the richest because it has all those homeless people because they can afford to not work, and people are apathetic enough where they give them money so that they are like they're kind of useless to the modern economy. So and so kind of going in, because mostly it connected with like the Gaza thing where Trump wants to, basically seems like build condos there. He said like, oh, there's all this beautiful water. And I'm like, that's kind of true, right? Like you take Gaza, this war-torn land, and it turns out to be like this next, like, say like the
Dubai.
yeah, right, like a cruise private island type thing where people go vacation there, but it's like so connected to history and religious significance. It just seems kind of a satire on modern America and how we kind of just don't care about history and past. And I don't know, but it's like that's probably a good thing, but also like there's this romantic, left vibe of like the struggle, right? The struggle against big modern yeah. So I don't know.
No, I've been thinking about this stuff a lot recently, just with all the like the U.S. aid and the cutting back, and because I kind of feel like that, like people right now they're talking a lot about soft power, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like when we pull back, well, then China kind of fills this void. And I don't know, it's like for years people have been saying like, well, the U.S. imperialism, it's bad and it's colonialism. We shouldn't be doing all these things. And now it's like, well,
I'm coming back.
If we don't do it, then China. It's like this weird confusion of is it good or is it bad? Do we want it? And then it's like, well, the U.S. we pay so much in foreign aid every year compared to other countries. But we pay. This is an interesting thing I've been thinking about. So we pay like way more than say Europe total in foreign aid, right? But percent of GDP, it's pretty similar. Now Europe had, in the U.S. we were pretty close in GDP like 20 years ago. I think from 2000 to 2008 they caught up to us, and then 2008 till now we've kind of gone crazy.
Yeah,
and Europe definitely makes choices on how they live that limits their GDP, I think. So they choose to have a more work-life balance. They choose to have more rules around investment and taxing wealthy and kind of like being a little tougher on big businesses. So flock to the U.S. and other countries. Well, then you don't grow as much as a country, and then you don't have the ability to spread your wealth around and have this soft power. So it's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. It's always so much more complicated, these things, than simple. I don't know. I've just been thinking about it. It's like the EU, yeah, they do humanitarian aid, but they also just like get to live this life of more chill, more balanced, while having the benefit of, well, the U.S. kind of takes care of things, while the American people like do work a lot more, stress, all that, make more money, but then they're also like spending way more money on foreign aid and different things. So it's kind of this weird like complexity. And I guess like the thing that I'm like kind of at now is what are we actually getting out of it, And that's what I don't really know. Like, yeah, I do think it's
nothing. It feels like nothing,
right? It's good to stop diseases and malaria and wherever. But is it actually like help? Is it like if China was the one who was stopping malaria in said country, what is actually wrong with that? Is China do it,
Right.
Like, does that make China that much more powerful? I don't really understand the argument there.
Yeah. So I've actually, glad you brought this up because I have thought, I've been thinking about a lot of similar things too. So one thing I think is the crux of the issue. One thing I think is the crux of the issue, and where there's like one side versus the other, and we talk about, I don't know, like I view it as like symptoms, right? But we don't talk about the disease or the core of it itself. We always argue about symptoms, and we can't seem to see why because we're not really talking about the main thing. And I think in this case, the main thing is it's kind of like net present value of money. Do you like, if you had say $1,000, would you want to give that $1,000 to 1,000 people right now? Just give them each person $1, or do you want to take that $1,000, invest it, grow it, and then say 10 years down the line, you give 10,000 people $1? So what's more important, giving the current day people money but a less amount of people that you're helping, or not help the current day people either as much or at all, but help a multitude more of future people, more money? And I think that is the left, and I don't know if it doesn't really probably map out perfectly well on left right, but I think it kind of gets close. And like the left dimension is like, help the people now, right? These are the people that are alive. These are the people that matter. The future people, they can deal with their own situation. We should help the people now. And I think the right thing is like, or like more capitalist, right? Is more, okay, we can help people more because if we grow and invest in ourselves or these businesses, or we take all this money, invest in our country, reduce regulations, like you said, that people have to work a little bit harder. It's just shown that we'll get more money, we'll be more prosperous, and then that thing will just keep cycling and just building upon itself, right? And I think that's really where the issue lies, is that the European is like, okay, let's just give everyone right now a really comfortable, nice life, right? And the America version is like, okay, you can still have a nice life, but if you get really rich, then these people can take their own money, they can give it to charity themselves, they'll have this huge spending power, they can, like basically everyone, even the poorest people in our country, has probably like a 55-inch flat screen TV, which is pretty incredible, right? And like access to internet, has a car, all this stuff, right? Like, and like one stat that just blows my mind is our poorest state, the average person, our poorest state is still wealthier than the average Londoner, right? Like the average UK person. And just like, I like, we always just forget how rich we are as a country, and just like, and like economic mobility too, right? That like people go into like these different classes pretty easily, and like our rich people end up falling out of it pretty easily too. And we do have a lot of economic mobility, and that's the beautiful thing about like meritocracy, is that, like if you have a good idea, you can make it in America, right? And I think like the tech boom and all these like dysregulations, like sure, you'll have kind of like the 2008s, but like weirdly enough, we've kind of done a pretty good job about that. The stock market has just kind of grown, and like I think having a 30-year fixed mortgage is like one of the best boons to American people that we don't appreciate, because no other country in the world does that. And just not only like how financially rewarded you are, but like the peace of mind that it's like this 30-year, I have it's my whole house. I don't have to worry about the interest rate. It's a very predictable payment. Sure, the taxes will go up a little bit, but like that's a very solid footing to build your future on, versus like Canada. You only get that for 5 years, and you have to remortgage your rate. Same thing with UK. And it's like, then you have to like, your interest payment could double, right? And it's like, fuck, I'm going to lose my house, and like, that's not a sustainable way to grow your economy.
Yeah. And credit cards too, right? We use credit cards way more than other countries. And it's interesting though, because I think I just want the left to admit that capitalism is the way. I think that's ultimately, I'm like, you know what? If you guys want to do all this soft power, foreign aid, helping everyone out, well, then you have to admit that we got to make as much money as possible, and we got to catch it, and we got to let these people roll. Because I think I always come back to, at the end of the day, like, what makes America, and this shining city on the hill has always been the people. Like, the people are creating companies and inventing new things and researching and technology and everything, and writing and movies and everything. And it's not the government. So like, the government just needs to back off and let the people do their thing. And obviously, like, you want to have some oversight, some general oversight, so things don't get too crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think it just comes back down to that. It's interesting though. Like, go ahead.
Just one point. It's like, so it's like soft power, soft power. It's like we have the world's biggest hard dick power, you know, and it's like fuck soft power when you have all this big hard power, you know, like fuck it, you know, like who? And it doesn't, like, I think the soft power doesn't work. It could work for China because they control their media and their press and their people, so they can be like, oh, you know, we solved all this shit, right? And like they do it in a nasty way where they'll like build infrastructure for African places, but then it's like with these blue not debt payments, and then they basically just take a shit ton of resources when like that loan comes due. Versus us, where we just give shit out willy nilly, and unfortunately, it seems like a lot of it just goes to like the corrupt like powers, and then they like fuck over their populace more because they just get continuously funded. You know, it's like I think we're actually probably the biggest proponent, and like people are right against this, where it's like we're the biggest proponent of all the shitty despots in there because we just think like, oh, we give them all this money, but we don't like put the next thing of it where it's like they have the corrupt leaders there that take all this money and then they can buy all these weapons, and like, you know, once you have all this money, these people are going to be really reluctant to give all that money, that big spigot, away to anyone else or really share it. We just think like, oh, the goodness of our hearts, like they'll share it with their citizens. It'll be all kumbaya, you know, in like their country, because they're just like these poor, beautiful, magic children that want to help everyone. And it's like, no, they're people. They're people from like the past that they're super like territorial about resources. And if they have this big, you know, money, they have this big, you know, money dick shooting shoved in their hard as possible, and they're not gonna let anyone else grab that dick, you know. And like, and we think like, oh, like we want to help them. It's like, no, you help them by actually believing in them and like making the arena like the outside as safe as possible, that there's no violence, you know, like maybe like help them secure their borders, but they need to do the work themselves. And I think that's where it comes down to, is like the soft bigotry of low expectations, or the, you know, where it's like they don't, like the left doesn't believe that these people can actually do anything themselves. Like we have to do everything for them, right? Because we're smarter and we're the white savior. And like I think that's really what it is. Like those people don't really give a shit about them. They just want to feel like they're helping, you know, this poor person to, you know, see way. You know, it's kind of like they want to be Jesus, but they don't believe in religion because they think that they're God themselves, you know?
Yeah. I like your point about the hard power, though. I think we're kind of seeing a little bit more of that. Like,
yeah,
it's all this fake. It's all this fake. It seems so like ungenuine too. And we've seen other countries kind of complain like, well, you're pushing like these weird angles, or like we'll give you money, but then you have to kind of teach these things, and it's like, can you know, I don't know. I'm kind of more for like let other countries be other countries. Like let them run. Like as long as their leaders are, I don't know. Obviously, we promote democracy around the world, so it's like you promote democracy, and then you kind of let people pick and choose which direction they want to go with it, and you know, for everyone, that's their own. And I think that other countries, they should be a little tougher on selling their natural resources.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting too? That we all just think that democracy is the end goal. Like there's no other political system that's better than that. I think it's good, but you know, it's like evolution, right? We just think who we are, where we are in modern day, this is the best it'll ever be. And because we're just so poor at thinking of improvements, right? That, oh, this could actually be better. And I think especially in the political sphere, is we just think, well, I mean, this system has worked pretty well. It's led to the greatest country that's ever existed. But, you know, like no size fits all. If you're a starting out country, if you have like an actual good person, that person probably should be dictator, right? Because that's a good way to get your country from being shit to being better. They were in Singapore, that guy was basically a dictator. Kind of interesting with Ukraine, stuff's coming out about Zelensky, where he's like, I'm the best leader for this. We don't need to have elections. I'm the best one to lead this country. And it's like, well, that's not really surprising that this person who gets all this adoration feels like he's God of his country and like, you know, the David. And do you think David is going to cede to some other person? Fuck no, he's not. And probably he has, you know, like what Ukraine has ever been as well known and, you know, such a player on the global stage. he's not going to give that shit up, and that's probably why a big part why he doesn't want the war to end. He's willing to sacrifice his citizens so he can still continually grift and continually fight against something and get all this money and adoration. Like, he's not going to give that shit up. So
Yeah,
I think that's going to end pretty ugly, where the war should end. And you know what? You're a smaller power. You know, yeah, it's nice that we use Russia resources. Everything's like kind of a nuanced issue, but you know, Zelensky is going to get more and more dictator shit, and that's going to be kind of interesting. I feel like there's going to be like, it have to be like an overthrow of him, and that's going to kind of blow a lot of people's minds.
That would be super wild. I did see he offered $500 billion worth of resources for us to protect them. And I was like, all right, maybe I'm back in now.
Yeah, but is that 500 billion like kind of like our money? You know, it's just
yeah.
It feels
it's also like, well, it's 500 billion worth a nuke, right? Isn't that kind of like ultimately what we're playing with?
Yeah,
here?
Yeah.
And that's the issue ultimately with Ukraine and Russia and this whole thing has been like, well, we can only push it so far before, you know. And so I don't know. That's why I've always just been a pro, like just cut a deal. They should have cut a deal when like Ukraine was kind of moving, like kind of gaining some back, and now they're kind of losing. And I don't know. It's just a shitty situation. And it sucks making a deal with Russia, but you also have to understand like they are a bigger country, and that's just reality, right? Like it is what it is. It's funny though. Like people get mad and say that's like a Russian talking point, but to me, I just look at it like, well, it's just obvious.
It's just reality, right?
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's like if you're Gaza, like you want to see Gaza has hostages, so it's kind of interesting. But like you just have to kind of cut a deal, and they've said recently that they're not gonna comply with the next hostage release. So if they don't get released Saturday, I mean, it's probably going to be like an insane war there. Like, it's going to be probably way worse than what it was before because
it was pretty bad before.
Yeah, it was. But I feel like Trump is going to be like just fucking level the shit out of it. They don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm down with like destroying Hamas.
Yeah.
I think.
Message, right?
What?
Sends a message.
Yeah. One interesting thing I saw today was so Egypt gets 1.3 billion in aid from the U.S. per year, 1.3, 1.4, and so Trump is like, if you don't take Palestinian refugees, you're not getting the 1.3 billion dollars in aid. And I think that's a perfect example of when to use, because if you think about it, say they come to America, well then we're gonna have to spend probably more than 1.3 billion dollars on housing and everything, and it's in such a like it's their neighbor, the language barrier's not there. It just makes way more sense, and it's like, well, Egypt, what the hell are you guys doing? So I don't know. I think that's like a good time to use your strong like. It's like, and that's I guess when I see that I'm like, what did that soft power gain us? We've been giving them aid for how many years for this soft power, but then when the rubber hits the road, they're not there to like pull up their end of the deal. That's how I kind of feel about it. So, all right, well then, fuck this. Like, we're not paying you guys anymore for that shit.
Yeah. All right, move on. That was good.
That's probably enough of that. Top 3, bottom 3 places you've ever been. Wow. Okay. Did you have some in mind, or do you want to go back and forth?
Like, because you've been traveling, kind of just interesting to talk about like places it seems kind of interesting.
Top 3. I would say, I mean, Paris was amazing. I will say, it's a really beautiful city. The people, it's fun because like it seems like you're walking around a fashion show almost. Like people are just always walking around in like the nicest clothes, and they're always just like ripping cigs. Everyone's skinny. It's funny
Does
too.
anyone vape there, or is it just all cigs?
Yeah, they do some vape too, but it's a lot more cigs. I would say less rolling, more rolling in Spain, less rolling in France. But I don't know. Everyone just looks like they're in a fashion show or something. And
did you dress like? Were you like? Did you stick out, or were you like able, like, because you've been in Europe for a while? Were you able to like kind of fit in?
I think I fit in okay.
Mhm.
I mean, I think my like hair and face just kind of sticks out naturally.
Hmm.
Or the Notre Dame sweatshirt to the Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So, I had to do that, but I think I'm okay. I mean, some people definitely stick out worse, but then you also, I don't know, you just have when you're in a city like that, you also get a lot of foreigners that are
Yeah.
like kind of doing their own thing as well. So, um, but one of the things that's awesome is like you can find so many great bakeries. Like you walk down the street, there's like 10 bakeries, just amazing. You pop in, have like a croissant, gyro, this, like, and everything. It's a little more expensive than Barcelona, but it's just super cool city. A little cold. I think I've just gotten soft with the weather, honestly,
Yeah.
because it was like 30 degrees and kind of rainy sometimes. And I was like cold. And then you come back to Barcelona, it's 50, 60 today, and you're just like, oh, this is just,
This is what it is. Yeah.
yeah. I think I just like Barcelona. I don't know. It's just something about, and just like the comfort of your own space.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you guys to come visit. I think Barcelona might be a top 3 city. I mean,
Really? Yeah.
just, I don't know.
So when I went to Paris, I just saw that maybe it's just the areas I went, but there was just so much like trash. Was that like that when you were there? Like it just seemed like really dirty.
What time of the year were you there?
Like summer. So maybe that's why.
Maybe it's just busier that time of the year.
Yeah,
So
maybe there's like some strike or something going on.
probably.
Yeah.
It's nice. It was nice going in February because, I mean, it's a little colder, but you like the Notre Dame, we walked up to it and I wasn't even thinking about going in. And it was like, there was no line. I was like, oh, you want to just like pop in quick. You just
Did you have to pay or was it no?
No, it's free. There's
Okay.
there's just like a little security thing you just walk through, and then it's funny though. Like Lauren's like, they got like gift shop like in the church. It's like in the back of the church is like a huge counter and they're selling trinkets and they're selling weird shit.
I mean, like the Vatican is kind of like, it's not in it, but like there's definitely like gift stuff, right? I get it, but it's like, yeah, you're right. It's weird.
It gets a little weird, and then also too, like you know how you can pay to like light a candle, say a prayer.
Yeah.
You can like Apple Pay that stuff now. So it's like you're just sitting there and you're just like tapping your phone for prayer candles. I mean, I don't know. I guess it makes sense because people don't have cash, but it's such a weird world.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of
Apple Pay for indulgences.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's a Catholic church. So bottom 3 would be tough. I mean, I don't know. I don't like ripping on other countries, places I've been to.
What about like when you're in that like Slovak area?
Albania, Tirana? Yeah. It's an interesting place though. Like I just respect a lot of, I mean, they're 30 years away from coming out of a dictatorship, a communist dictatorship. So it's like you kind of respect that they're getting through it and building a lot. And I honestly think they're gonna have some exciting things there, but I didn't ever feel like unsafe or anything like that. I never felt it's crazy cheap, but it's just, I would say the quality of everything is just less. So you go to like we went to a 5-star hotel on the water. Well, 5-star hotel, like it was beautiful location, but it's like the room, it's weird because it'll be like massive and like marble and like kind of fancy, but and like like the doors you just kind of like press them and I don't know like kind of cool things like that. But then like the sheets will be like you'll see like stains on the sheets. So it's just kind of like a weird. Like I think just like the standard is a little less and like just the caring about things is a little less. One thing that was really funny to me was whenever you get water, the waiter would come over and he'd just like pour you a glass of water, right? And he would like take the like a big bottle of water. He would take the whole thing and just like hold it upside down, and it would just be like fly, like splashing everywhere. And this happened like all the time, and I was just like, "What is?"
Bro, just do it at an angle, man. Yeah, it's a little shit. Yeah.
Like I don't know if they just weren't. I don't like that was one weird thing I just did not understand. I'm like, why are they just splashing the water? So just like kind of funny cultural things like that. I just there's not a ton of like tourism to do in Albania, but there were some cool like concerts and just local things, and the soccer, the Euro qualifier was going on. Hoping to travel more this summer. San Sebastian, I would probably say is a top 3 place. I'm hoping to go back soon. That's northern Spain, Basque Country, on the water. It's smaller, but decent sized city. They have a soccer team, and it's just beautiful. It's definitely like a wealthier, higher end area. I don't know what I would compare it to in the U.S. because it's like I almost want to think of like a La Jolla or something like that, like or San Diego kind of, just something like. The thing about Spain, it's like it just seems like there's these areas where there's just also no poor. You know what I mean? Like in America, it seems like you kind of get a mixture all the time. And I guess you got to have people working and stuff, but I don't know. There just seems to be areas where you just like everyone is very wealthy almost. I don't know. Maybe it's just certain areas.
Like definitely like Switzerland. Like I remember like when we were there, like the homeless person like begging for change was like dressed in like Armani. And I'm just like, you're probably like wealthier than I am, asking for money. Like that kind of blew my mind that like everyone there just because like even like stay at a hostel, it was like 200-300 euro, for like this really kind of bare bones, the cheapest thing, right? And it's just like, all right, like you just have to be like the barrier of entry just to exist in society is just so much money that like everyone is just kind of like the floor is just so high.
Yeah, which is interesting. I read recently that 1 in 7 people are millionaires in Switzerland.
Yeah, I bet.
Just incredible. But then you kind of wonder, like, well, then, like, if everyone has a lot of money, then is everything?
No one has a lot of money.
Yeah, right. So, U.S. cities. I don't know. What are your favorite U.S. What's your favorite U.S. city to go to?
I mean, I really like Savannah. I thought Savannah is just so unique, I guess like the uniqueness of it. That Rhode Island, like the Weekapaug area is really nice because it's just like small, like it's like a private community without being private, and just like everyone knows each other. You just walk, you go right to the beaches. I do like living in Chicago. I've really come to appreciate it. Just that you can like live in a big city, but like just have that neighborhood vibe. I think it's just really cool. Like it's just really unique in that way, where you just kind of have best of both worlds type of thing.
Yeah, everything. I love like the 15-minute city. I know that's probably a liberal thing, but like, which is funny. I just think
they're right about that walkable fit, it's so nice.
Walking everywhere, nice out. If you want to like run to the store quick and grab something, grab it quick. You don't like you go out drinking, you don't have to worry about driving home or anything.
Yeah, like working, like because it's like I think or it's just like you have to be in it to like appreciate it, right? And if you're not, like where you're driving and it's like, oh, you're dealing with all the traffic and parking, then it's like it sucks, right? It sucks, But like if you're in it, it's kind of like, why would you ever leave type thing? And it's kind of hard to leave, But then every time when I go back home, it's like, oh, it's so nice, just like there's no traffic, I don't have, it's just so less stressful driving. And I kind of get stressed driving, but like kind of like the city driving stresses me out. Like I'm always okay, like on the highway, whatever, like that's kind of like a peaceful thing for me. But like dealing with traffic, making like weird turns, because like Chicago has like all these weird turns where you have to make, and some of them are like blind, and that like stresses me out. Like I'm still like a kind of a country boy at heart for that. And like even like in Portugal, that was most stressful shit ever because it's like on like it's so tight and you're like all these inclines, and I don't know, like that freaked me out. But like I really actually, speaking of like Portugal, like we went to like that Six Senses place, and it's like El Domo. I don't know, that place was, I mean, incredible. Even like Italy, Greece, because it's just like it feels kind of like not like purgatory in a way, but like kind of like half heaven, half earth, where everything is just peaceful bliss. Like I don't know how you could ever work there. Like if you just live there, I guess you get used to it, right? But just being surrounded by I don't know, like all the vineyards, rolling hills, wine, cheese, pasta, just kind of just doesn't get you going, right? And I think like kind of live in America in the cold winters where it's like, all right, like I just got to focus on work just to do it, grind type of thing. Worst places like Macon, Georgia. That always sticks out to me. It was like so many places were burnt down, poor, it just looked like kind of like an economic bomb went off, but no one cares to fix it. Gary, like some places in New Jersey that were like, it's just like so much concrete.
One funny one in Tirana was, so when we got there, our plane landed at like 12:30, and you enter in this country and you just kind of have like no idea. And so we get off, we get our bags. It was like really easy. It wasn't the biggest airport, and you always like never know what to expect. Like, oh, are they gonna check our passports? Are they gonna care? And it was like the easiest thing ever. I don't think they really have like harsh rules if you're an American. You can kind of come to Albania. You can stay up for a year for just if you want, if you can, and then I think you can apply if you want to stay longer. But so like we our Airbnb host, she lived in London, and she set up her sister like lived in the apartment across from where we were staying. And so she set up like a car for us. So we're like, so where's the cab? And she was like, he's outside by the KFC. And I'm like, what is a KFC? And like you walk out the front door of the airport, massive Kentucky Fried Chicken. And it's just like, where are we? And the guy's standing there, and he like drives us, and it's like 1 a.m. on the roads. And like, I had read all these things the week before because I just didn't really know what to expect. Yeah. And so many videos online, like I was watching YouTube videos. It's just the same stuff. It's like, oh, here's the main square. It was just like nothing. There really isn't a ton of information. So, and we spent over 3 weeks there. So but I read about how like there's all these car accidents, and like the driving is horrible, and like it's crazy, and people die all the time. So I'm like kind of nervous about this hour drive to our 45-minute drive to our apartment. And like the guy, we're on like a freeway or like a highway where cars were passing each other. And he is just like cruising, but he kept like passing cars and like going in the oncoming lane. And he would like push it with some of these cars coming at us. And I'm just like sitting there like,
oh my God.
Like, yeah. I don't know. I just felt like I was like, I mean, it's 1 a.m. I'm like tripping out. I'm like in Albania. We're like, and I'm just like, this is just such a funny, odd experience. And then we went to this. Well, it was like a bunker. So the guy, the dictator, for like all those years, he was like really scared that they were going to get nuked by nearby countries. So he built bunkers all over the place. He like built up the military. He spent a lot on military and building like that. And so we went and visited like one of his bunkers, and that was super wild. Like I didn't feel great in there, to be honest, because like you go in this, it's like built in the side of the mountain, and you go downhill. So you walk in at first, and because they're scared of nukes, the first thing is like these shower rooms. You're supposed to like shower off. You don't do it, but and it's built. It looks like it's built in like the 1950s. So it's like very old and it's tight. You walk in, and it's like his quarters, and it's like a little office, and then like his bedroom, and you can like hear his voice on a phone or something like that. And the whole like theme of this is to kind of like remind you of what happened, and like not to let this happen again. Like start, and it's like, so it's super creepy in there. So they're playing like sirens go off like randomly, and like there's just like this dripping water sound the whole time, and you're just like going through like down deeper and deeper into this bunker. And like honestly, after like I don't know, I was in there for probably half hour. I was like, I just gotta get out.
I would be so claustrophobic.
Yeah, I got super claustrophobic, and then ever since then I've been like way more sensitive to. I'm like, not feel good, but
like a horror thing. But like,
it was like,
this is a haunted house, but like
this is the worst part. I think this is what really got me. You walk in and there's this big sign on the door. It says, randomly the lights shut off. Like, don't freak out. The generator will turn them on like within a couple minutes. Just don't move. That was like,
What the fuck?
that is horrifying to me.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not. So, and I guess I had my phone, but I don't know. I just was not feeling that. So I like went out there. I don't know. I just was like imagining like being a soldier and you're just living under this dictatorship, and they're like, all right, you got to go in there. Like, you're living in there and you just have no control over anything. And just, I don't know, my mind was wandering a little bit. But after we take the cab ride home, and the guy, he was kind of funny and outgoing. And he's like, yeah, you should rent a car. Like, just drive. It's big deal. Like, no, he's like, it's much safer now. Everyone's way better now. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to drive. He's like, yeah, it's cheap. Why not do it? He's like, no, it's way better. And we're at a stoplight, turning left. And he's like, yeah, it's way better. And then he just turns left and like totally cuts off this car coming. And I'm like, dude, this is what I'm talking about.
I'm like, what was the idea before? Yeah, like that's the improvement.
Like, Jesus Christ. So I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna cab it. But it was an interesting experience. Rome, I think, was one of the coolest cities, just with all the history. And I just loved walking around and like the Colosseum, the Vatican, the castles. I don't know. I just kind of have I think I just have like a love for medieval times too, and like Robin Hood, and growing up on that, like those movies and that time period, and knights and crusades, and I don't know, just kind of hits with me.
I don't think like it's like big and impressive. I think that's one thing about like Europe is just like, I don't know. It's just like everything's like all the normal stuff is like impressive.
Yeah, it's Paris. I felt like that. Paris, it just felt like every building was like just kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if maybe it's just different, so it just feels like unique. But it does seem like they care a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just like structures of things. Oh, back to your Savannah thing. So I was thinking, I said this the other day. I was like, maybe because we're trying to figure out how we can like live, but also like missing family and friends and all that and stuff. But like, love Barcelona, want to stay here. So I was like, what if we just like came back, and maybe probably not this year, but like in the future, if we could somehow get to this place where we could go to Savannah and like rent a house for like a month. And then like my parents could like come visit us, or Lauren's parents could, or if you wanted to come visit us. Like, I think that would just be a fun way to like come to the US, but kind of be in nicer weather.
Yeah.
Days and spend some time, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever work. So I don't know. I think that'd be a sweet way to do it. And spend some here as well.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out.
All right, move on.
We'll keep adding to the list though. Moving on. Yeah. Which US president would be the best to lead in 2025? Wow.
Yeah, so I think like you just take them, and wherever they are, you drop them in. So like the more, so even like George Washington, then he would have to learn basically right there. Yeah, right. Like how smartphones, history, like the Civil War happened. America. So I think it's not just like they're here. I guess maybe you could take it the other way, where it's like, if they were just born, but so they would have I think it's kind of more interesting, like, so like they would have to learn all that, and like there'd be kind of like the learning curve, because it's like, it's like, do we really need a George Washington type right now? I don't know. Abraham Lincoln type. Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know.
All right, here's a hot take, and I think he's actually I think he is an underrated president. Richard Nixon.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And I think he honestly did a lot of these things that we're kind of seeing right now, like more populist ideas, cutting back, limiting the powers of like intelligence. I think Nixon was kind of that guy.
And his scandals like wouldn't even be a thing. Like who gives a shit,
It was,
like,
it was
like compared to like modern stuff, it's like, oh, you're spying on someone, like, whatever.
Yeah, it's like expected nowadays, right? I mean, I think that's what the whole like the whole Russia collusion thing was kind of also like their way of spying on Trump.
Yeah.
So in a sense, um, him or maybe John F. Kennedy would be like
Yeah.
kind of like your celebrity,
Like have a vision.
kind of like the vision,
Yeah.
good, like the good guy, like people were just excited for
Young.
space race to Mars. Yeah, a little bit younger. I want to just get something like that. We're back in. I think we just need to like compete as a country against not war, but like a space race. I want to like a space race against China to
Yeah.
Mars. We need
Yeah,
like
we need like some like
to do.
vision, like some unifying cause, I think, to all get by.
Yeah, and we just are missing like that, and then and obviously it's like I don't know what we're doing right now, but we're not doing anything like super exciting. Like we have like all these different company. Even it's kind of weird to me. Even like we have like 5 different companies that are kind of doing the same thing, like Blue Origin and SpaceX and Boeing. And it's like they're competing against each other, but they're like kind of friendly with each other, and they're all working with NASA. Like I kind of would just rather them like all join forces and against something else, whatever that could be. So I don't know. I would just maybe JFK or Nixon. So I guess the 60s or 70s guys.
I was thinking kind of like Reagan. I mean, that's kind of easy maybe, because I think Trump is like modern day Reagan, just kind of shittier version of him. Or because like Reagan is like the same kind of like just populist president, but Reagan's message was so much more positive, and like Trump's message isn't like, it's positive and negative, and I get it, and that kind of works, right? That it's like you kind of have to call a spade, but also like America's awesome, right? And I think that's just sorely was missed, that like, yeah, we it's good to focus on our past sins and like still the current sins, but also like being like honest that like we're still the best country in the world, right? And like celebrating that is a-okay and a good thing to do. And I just think like the positive, like be positive about our positives, but also aware of our negatives. But also I think at this point, like we're all aware of our negatives. We just kind of everyone just needs to be a little bit more positive, and kind of don't like that. Just was thinking that like being a doomer, just being like, oh, like this is the worst thing that's ever happened, is almost like gives like social cachet towards it. And it's like, oh, I am so much more in tune with current state of affairs if I'm like so negative about this, I'm like, oh, like all the comparisons to Hitler and stuff, which is it always just feels weird to me, like we're almost like we want that to be a fascist so we can be right, and like someone like it's almost like you want to go against something so you can like feel like you're like people want to be martyrs, like we're like all those people, like that random guy that lit himself on fire in protest to, I don't know, like the Jewish thing, and it's like people want to be martyrs, but for like causes that aren't like that serious, like we're not having like we had a civil war, right? And we had, like fight against Germany and like slavery and civil rights, like the modern day issues is like people are like, oh, it's the modern day civil rights, but for trans people. It's like, no, that's they can do whatever they want. They just can't change in front of girls and play sports. That's not nearly to the same level of civil rights, as back then.
You can buy a house, you can get credit cards, you can work at companies.
It's like it's like we're not. Seems like a large part of the populace is just like unhappy because things are mostly okay, and like
looking for a little bored, honestly. I mean,
I think they're bored, like they want something where they can struggle against. And
I did read this thing, and I'm totally with you. Like I'm so against the doomsday. It's like I'm over it. I want to be excited about the future. When I was young, I was always excited about the future. People are so afraid of technology now. I think our society is just so like dark. It's like, and it's intriguing. Like when you watch movies and they're a darker twist on things, like The Joker or
Black Mirror or whatever.
Black Mirror is like a good example, or like all these like killing every show and podcast. Like there's a million death murders. But it's like I don't know. I think it just kind of takes a toll. It's like let's be a little more positive. And there was this book recently reading, and it said something about, it was a fiction book, but it said something about how every like generation, every like group of people in society, they've gone through this, like they want to feel like they're living at the most important time in society.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like we're living at this time where like if we go this way it's good or this way it's bad, and so you kind of like, I think it's just a little bit of our like natural like narcissism that we want to like feel like we're at this super important moment. And I think like that's what a lot of like the climate change stuff is. I think that's what a lot of the Trump stuff is. And I think what's frustrating to me is like when I just watch it all, it's just so confused. Like, and I try to read both sides enough to just have a general idea of what's going on. But like right now, it's like, does anyone have any idea what's really happening? Because it's just so much, there's just so much like code red and end of the world and breaking constitutional crisis. That's right now, constitutional crisis. And it's like, can Hitler, can you stop doing this for like 2 seconds so that like, what if like it actually does happen? You've already turned off so many people.
Boy who cried wolf.
We're going to listen to you. And it's just like, stop. Stop. And honestly though, the sad part is it works. Like the amount of people, this is what's crazy to me too, is like the amount of people that are making money on Substack by being like these hyper partisan writers, and people pay $5 a month and get their blogs. They're making insane amounts of money though. Like tens of thousands of dollars a month, just like writing these crazy. And the thing about a Substack is you can just write whatever the hell you want. Like I could just, I could be a fucking psycho person.
Yeah. They're like doomer drug dealers. Give them a bit of dystopia.
And I saw that like the therapy has gone up a bunch recently already, and it's like, I mean, we're 3 weeks in, and I don't know. It just seems like that's another interesting one actually I was reading too, is like, does all this like addressing your trauma as therapy actually help you or not?
It makes it worse. It makes it worse because it's like just constantly on the front of your mind of how much of a victim you are, how shitty people have been, like, and it's like
was actually,
if you don't validate that, then it's like I'm gonna go find someone else who truly gets me, right? It's like I just want to be validated, and I almost want to, I want to someone to be honest with me about how bad things are, right? And it's kind of like that false memory thing, that craze back in the 90s where everyone was being sexually abused, and then their therapists were like, yeah, you were. Like, let's uncover this, that you've repressed. And it's like all these false planted memories of abuse, and it's like, oh shit, like that worked out really terribly.
Yeah. And it's just people, like, it's almost like they want to have an excuse for like, oh, I wasn't able to do that because this happened to me when I was
someone else hurt me. Like people just don't want agency. They don't want to be like, I'm actually in control of my destiny. Like people don't want to hear that.
Why is that? Is that just a fear of like, sometimes having control is a fear, right? It's like,
then it forces you to be accountable, right? And it's like, that's terrifying.
Terrifying, but it's also powerful. And I think there are oddly, in a way, like there are a lot of people in society that are kind of like would want to just rather be told what to do and like show up at a corporate, like kind of like show up at like their government job and make like $70,000, $80,000 a year, and just like punch the clock and not be stressed and kind of like whatever. And it's like, I don't know, it's just such an interesting.
And like, really, is there anything wrong with that if that's who you are? I don't think so. No,
there's nothing wrong with that. I think the part where there's nothing wrong with doing that. I think the people that like take their views and want to push it on other people is where it just gets a little bit.
I mean, I think a lot of it is because of like the death of religion. Like that. The people that have always been drawn to that are still like, those people still exist, and so. Maybe we talked about this, but like climate change is kind of like, it's a religion, right? Veganism is a religion. Homeschooling is religion. Conspiracy theory is a religion, where it's like this special other who has like this granted knowledge that makes you more elevated than others, and you're going to proselytize to others. And
like minority things have become a religion.
Yeah, it's like offshoots, right? It's like the Latter-day Saints of
it's interesting.
Yeah,
I was thinking about, it's funny, we think about a lot of the same things. I was thinking about, this is what my theory is on religion, that the lack of religion has led to the void of male role models.
Yeah.
And I mean, regardless of like, I guess the religion side, I think just like something about like going to church when you're younger and seeing like other people, business leaders, community. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you pull back, it just kind of community is really what you're looking for, right? And when you pull back like something that like kind of forces you to be a part of this community, I think religion also is like you're supposed to humble yourself, right? So it's like everyone's kind of the same and equal when you go, like you're all sitting in the pews together. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's kind of a cool thing. It's like you can kind of believe you could be anyone here. Mm-hmm. And when we like lost that, we've like stripped away so many of these community things in society because maybe there are parts that are negative, but like we've like the losses that we've taken with them have been big too. And it's, I don't know, I've been thinking about it too. It's like,
no, I 100% agree, right? And then you like, okay, you meet a Trump supporter at church, or you meet like someone that has like a gay kid, right? Like realize like, oh, like most people are mostly normal, right? And like they may view differently, but like we're so much more alike than we are different. And like every basically human being just wants to feel safe, secure, care about their family and their friends, and like have like freedom and safety. And like that's every human that's what we really only care about, and we just have different ideas how to get there. But yeah, I agree with like the community aspect of it also kind of forces you in a routine, right? And like I think that's kind of a good thing. And so it's like if you're forced to interact with the real world, you realize that it's just a great moderating force. Things are never as bad as because fear is such a powerful motivator. So if you're just hooked on that like fear drip of the internet where it just like the algorithms just pump you towards that direction, if you're predisposed to it, and you can find I think it's kind of like the internet's great in a way where you can find all these niche communities where it's like, oh, I'm a woodworker, and I care about like woodworking, or I care about this niche video game, or I care about, I don't know, like local politics and, like Florida. Like, great, you can all connect. Or you have weird fetishes, or you're a Muslim living down south. You can connect with others and, feel less alone. But also, too, it's like, okay, then if you have like some bad wolves in there where it's like, takes the community, like the stuff that gets reinforced is the, the taboo, the crate, like I always see like in the dating advice, relationship advice, it's never the stuff that's like positive, like, oh, my partner is great, like, oh, we never fight, like that. No one really cares about that shit. That doesn't get eyeballs. It's my partner is abusive and like, what should I leave? Like, or my person's cheating on me, like that's the stuff that gets a lot of eyeballs and comments. And then you start thinking like, oh, everyone's a cheater, every guy is abusive, every person is a porn addict or whatever, right? And then it's like, oh, then you start slanting your whole view on, whole demographic is like they're the scary other. And I think you mentioned this too, that like women being really into true crime, just think like every guy is going to kill them when it's just so vanishingly rare. Like they love this like same thing with like horror. Like young teenage girls are the biggest viewers of horror. I think it's just because they just like, because I think like guys tap into danger by like fighting, aggression, but girls tap into danger. They have the same like drive to do it, just they do it like in a vicarious way, right? Like where danger happens to me, that's like their version of violence, like combat. And it's like, so you have like this whole like almost celebrated discourse of it that no one talks about, like, oh, maybe we should, like violent video games, it's always talked about as, like a bad influence, but no one talks about like, okay, if you watch a shit ton of true crime shit, that's probably gonna have some negative effects on you, but no one like really like throttles that or has conversations about that. And I think that's kind of weird, and it's, like that's clearly can be a negative influence. So I don't know. I think there's just a lot of like hyper specialization is where we are in our country, and that can lead to a lot of good. But like there's pros and cons to everything, and I think the cons we're kind of slowly starting to address that. But I don't think we like the pluses of it and being hooked up to the feeds and the scrolls way much more. And I think it's like are we gonna ever stop doing it? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think too, it's like to your comment about finding like your groups.
Yeah.
When you're in an area and you feel like you can't connect well with people, it's cool to be able to find like-minded people, right?
Yeah.
But then also it's like you don't want to like overdo it where you're just living in this bubble of everyone's the same. And it's kind of interesting because I think I've always enjoyed like conversations or people, and I don't know why this is, but with people that are like different, right? People that are like bringing up different ideas or having to face those things, I think is actually a good thing. Like what you're saying, like you meet someone out in the community that is not the same as you, and then you realize, oh, like I think sports is honestly one of the best.
Yeah.
Bringing like different people together because it's like, oh, like I love basketball. I love playing basketball too. Like let's go shoot hoops, And it's such an easy like thing that you can quickly pick up. And like it just seems like people are just like really driving into their echo chambers
yeah.
I guess here's an interesting question. Because like we control our algorithm, right? Like you click and then it kind of sends you more of what you're clicking on. But like, do we really control the algorithm? Because it's kind of all playing to your impulses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's kind of an interesting like if it sends you things that you're gonna like naturally like I get the weirdest videos. Like Lauren will say like, oh, you get the weirdest videos. I'm like, yeah, because I just like will stare at them longer because they're just weird to me, and then like on Instagram. And then I just get more of them. And I'm like, I don't even know what I don't know, I just get weird.
So I think it plays to your subconscious, and that subconscious I think leads to a lot of like decision makings, and you make decisions based on that. But you probably maybe not like sometimes, oftentimes, I don't know, but like a lot of what your decisions are made on that, and like you probably can't articulate it if pressed in some cases, but like whatever, like maybe some moment happened to you, or maybe because you were born, or like like who your parents are, who your friends are, what your ethnicity is, what country you live in, like all that I think shapes who you are. And so it's kind of like the free will question, like do we have free will? Like yes and no, right? Like a lot of your life is just decided the instant you're born based on who you were born to, what economic class, your parents are still together, how educated they are, your friends, like really you're like 80% of your life is already preordained just because of that. And like sure, you can make decisions and like, oh, I have this white collar job versus this white collar job, or I live here versus here, or I'm this religion, like this, go to this church versus this. But it's like you're still like gonna go to church, make this amount of money, be married to this person, have this sort of thing. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about it that way. So kind of like, like you'd probably
do you think that like the algorithm, like when you're looking at the algorithm, you're almost facing your subconscious?
Yeah, it's like the narcissism of man, where you're facing the true reflection of who you are, at least in that moment.
Yeah, and it's like, do you want to address it and change it,
or no? And like a lot of people probably don't want to, right? Because it's addicting, right? It's a drug. It's really a drug in the sense of, I don't know.
I think you get the same effects in your brain as like whatever, right?
It's just reinforcing that you're correct, you're right. Whatever decisions you made, I don't know, like whatever your beliefs you are the correct beliefs to have, and like it's kind of like an emotional blanket. It's just an emotional comfort zone, right? Don't ever leave your comfort zone. Go to whatever you're predisposed for.
Yeah, it's interesting. What would be interesting too is like, say you gave someone like a blank account and they started clicking through, how long do you think it would take before Instagram or Twitter or whatever knew like most information about like
probably like 5-10 minutes.
Right? It probably wouldn't take that long where it's like, oh, okay, this person grew up here, is this age, is this class of this type of job, married or not, kids. Like it'd be pretty interesting actually.
Or even like more like, okay, say you take like a hardcore Trump person and you take a hardcore like Bernie Sanders person and you like swap their feeds, like that they were always going to get that other person's feed, like no matter like if they click dislike and all that stuff, like how could their views be changed? You know,
I think it would change,
like, and they're forced to do it.
Change a decent amount, I would say.
Yeah.
I think that's what it kind of frustrates me personally. It's like you kind of just wonder what else is there.
Yeah.
But all right. Interesting. So Reagan, Nixon.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe George Washington too. You know, John Adams, Jefferson, the earlier people. I think we're kind of getting more, you know, because their biggest fear was two-party system and
Millard Fillmore.
Yeah.
Millard Fillmore was the Great Compromise of 1850.
There you go.
I did my
Polk, right? He got the he did the Mexico-American War, and we got like Texas, California. I don't know if you want to do Manifest Destiny. I
did my paper on him for Mrs. K in 7th grade.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Moving on, is civilization a mistake? Maybe we aren't made to be domestic.
Yeah. So like this was kind of just about like the hunter-gatherer. Like, and I kind of looked into this. It's kind of proven not to be true, but you know, something about we have a more varied diet, you know, like more quote unquote leisure time. We died quicker, right? Because there wasn't like an actual source of food, and like specialization allows like abundance, right? And like people can get like everything they want at the fingertips, but then you're like, you know, more sad now because of that, you know, versus like if you had all this freedom and choices, you know, and you're forced, right, to either hunt or die, you know. But I don't know.
I feel like, so you talked quite a bit about like a pendulum swinging. Maybe we're starting to see the swing back of that pendulum, like the civilization. Like, honestly, one of the biggest changes in my life that I've really enjoyed was cooking more. And I would say that it's probably like the greatest. I don't know. It's honestly one of the best things because besides like the health reasons and you just feel a lot better, like you cook amazing food all the time and you can try like all the different flavors and so I think like when it comes to civilization, the fast food and like the cheap meals and like the frozen food, I think
there it
is maybe a negative. But at the same time, it's like you don't want people starving because they can't eat. So, but I don't know. Cooking, I think, is highly recommend.
Yeah, I do agree with you, and it seems like America's kind of is long overdue, right? Just over processed, pasteurized stuff, high sugar, you know, just all artificial stuff. You know, I think we realize that that's not a good thing. You know, we should invest more in trying to have more natural stuff. You know.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a cycle though, because you feel tired because what you're eating, and then
and then so you just want fast food because you don't have energy for it, and then you just feel worse. And
I was there for a long time, and but you start like breaking out of that, and you're like, damn. Like, honestly, you can cook meals that are not that hard, and they taste honestly like just as way better. And then you go back to some of that stuff, and you're like.
Yeah, like you said, you don't even like Qdoba, like all that's
well, it just has that like I don't know, that flavor, that kind of distinct. And I was like, it's just not the same anymore. I don't know. One thing that I thought was interesting, I said this the other day, was like people always say like, oh, the Mediterranean diet's like the healthiest diet, right? And that's I guess kind of what I'm eating now. But I don't think people have a great concept of what it actually is, because people always say it's like a lot of fish and nuts.
Yeah.
I think it's just cooking whole foods, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if you go to the store and you just chopping vegetables all the time, which is kind of like what we do. The thing I like is like if you take any sauce will pretty much make your food good, right?
Yeah.
Any sauce, pick a carb,
right?
Yeah, it's like whatever you like. You want to make it spicy, you want to make it sweet, you want to make it whatever. Um, if you then just throw in a bunch of vegetables and then pick whatever carb you want, whether it's like potatoes or rice or pasta, and then eat it. Honestly, the thing too is you can eat as much as you want. Like you can just crush that stuff and then have some leftovers tomorrow and eat more of it, and you'll feel great. So that's what I think. The Mediterranean diet is just like cooking more, eating healthier. Like you're not really thinking about it though. You're just kind of like enjoying it, and then you're drinking and just kind of walking around a little bit more and stuff.
Yeah, I think the walking. I think Europe, like that's just because it's like every time I've been there, you just have to walk so much, and you know that's just so good for you. You know.
Dude, the French, man, they just walk like machines. It was
Yeah.
fun. Dude, they're like biking too. It was 30 degrees out, and there's people on these bikes like with no face mask, no gloves. Their hands had been like frozen in those bike handles. I was in the cab right next to one. I was like, dude, you must be dying right now. But they're just, I don't know. They love it.
Well, different.
Dude, in Spain, they sit outside and eat like all winter. So like I don't do that. But
yeah, like and we had to do that during COVID, right? And like it wasn't bad. Like it wasn't as bad as I thought because you have all the heaters and stuff. Yeah, eating cold is like because it seems like unthinkable, but like when you actually do it, it's not. You know, it's not the end of the world.
The only bad part is if it's windy, your food gets cold pretty fast.
Yeah, that's true.
And people love to smoke outside. So
yeah.
I do think it's good to be domesticated just to like I think like farming was
well, and like think of like all the drugs and life-saving stuff that we've had.
Wastewater treatment plants, one of the best things.
Yeah, like how many diseases that we like know about, and you're not gonna have a spaceship if you're not. Yeah.
So
all right,
moving on. World.
Right. Yeah, so you had a topic here.
Well, we kind of did it. I guess I was gonna go. What did I write? I was just gonna kind of ask about it, and then we kind of went into the whole soft power and Doge and cutting and everything. But and aid, I guess a little different, maybe not world chaos, but do we want to just do like a Severance recap?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Yeah, so I think it's like I think that like one I saw is like it was casted so well, and I think like casting is such a kind of like not really talked about thing, but I think it matters so much to like what the show is. Just having characters that just like gel together and just seem like of that place, right? That, and I think they did a good job, like kind of like they're all different, right? And they all have like different things they bring, and they allow each other to like have different times to shine. I saw one with like Helly, right? That went from, we should say spoiler. So if you haven't listened, if you're listening this far, haven't seen the latest episode, turn off now. Wait a second. But with Helly R, like with her face, like this small movements of going from like outie Helly to like inner, and you could just see like eyebrows and like just kind of impressive face distortions, right? Like I mean, that's kind of a really hard thing to do where you're the same person, but somehow you were able to look different just by facial movements. It's interesting. And I kind of like that, like everything seems super high stakes, but it's like not, right? Like, oh, you did something so bad, so we're gonna take your marshmallows away. And it's like Holly, like those two are like, this is ridiculous, versus everyone else being like, oh my God, this is so bad, like we're really in trouble. And like the show always kind of has those themes, right? Like all the rewards are you have like like that music thing, like, and you pick whatever jazz, right? And like, so I kind of think like the overarching, like where they have to finish like cold storage or cold whatever the program is, like it almost seems like it's just going to be like some like minor like refinement of data processing that they think is like the world's like maybe it has to do with goats somehow. Like you find like a better goat, that doesn't really matter, but like they take it super seriously. So I think kind of part of that where that's just kind of funny where, and it kind of a discussion too on current corporate culture where, you're tasked with something that you just think is like life and death and so important, but like in reality, it's like, who cares, right? Like Cheryl makes someone's life a little bit better or easier, but if you don't do it, no one's gonna die or anything.
That's funny. I didn't hear that theory. That's actually I
Yeah.
like that theory a lot.
Yeah.
I was thinking actually the same thing last night. I was like, I just love the casting. Like,
Mhm.
it's funny though because I look at Adam Scott and I think he's great in this role. And I always just think back to his role as the older brother in
Yeah, the Step Brothers. Yeah.
and like the scene with the abs, like and he gets
Mhm.
punched, and it's just I don't know, and like the singing, and it's just such a different role, but I think he's awesome, and he has such like a unique look and like
I
facial
think, and
structure.
all of them kind of have unique looks, right? Like,
Yeah.
like even like the Black
Dylan does that like
he does some weird stuff with his lips a lot, and it's like, oh, there's me this time, and it's like his lips are like this, or with his, like the interaction with his wife too was like kind of perfectly him, where it was like awkward, and he's kind of like immature, right, in a way, but he's like a genuine person. I don't know, it's just an interesting person. Yeah.
I saw a really cool a couple weeks ago they in New York they had like the cast, they actually set up the desks in like the state, like the central station or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they just had him like working at their and he was like Adam Scott sitting there like his feet up and Helly's there and they're just like walking around talking to each other. I don't know, I think it's just such a cool show. It was really a unique episode though, like the whole door. I love it too. It's like, oh, we're going on a retreat or and I love they always have like the bizarre sayings and the music is like incredible. One thing I was thinking about was because they don't have any idea of the outside world, but they like then all of a sudden they get thrown out into the middle of nowhere. Where are they in? I don't even understand. Like,
yeah, it's like it almost feels like it's like I think it's like, is it a simulation? Like I could see it being like in like it's like an indoors place that they did, right?
Yeah.
Versus outside, or maybe it's like a brain thing, right? Like they're like they created like some mental thing where you're not actually outside, but you think you are, type thing.
Yeah, wild stuff. But great show, highly recommend. I'm excited. I just like the pace of it too. It's been good.
Yeah. But it's almost I can see it kind of getting into a path where it feels like a lot happens, but kind of not a lot happens, right? Where like if you look at the season, what's like they've come back. Like, okay, Adam Scott, right? Like, and that's something interesting too, right? Where he's like synced up. So it's like his innie and outie are kind of the same person. So he's kind of aware of all this, but is he not, type thing.
So Helly's innie kind of fell in with Adam's innie.
Yeah, right? But like it's interesting, the outie, when she was the outie, that's when they like had sex, right?
That's
and
what
like,
I'm
the
saying.
outie was kind of like,
the outie liked him too.
Yeah, but I think she did it on purpose to like get him distracted from, all the other stuff, right? Like that's what my take was. And then like the one guy like knew, right, that she was lying, and like the outie couldn't answer the question about the night garden because she wasn't there for that, right? So like, and then
she would, because it was a lie.
Yeah, it was a lie.
Yeah. Did she ever admit that? Or I guess it came out that she's
because and like because like outside Heliar was never cruel, and then you can see her just like smiling and being nice in her face. And then like also when that guy was looking at the screen, I saw this on Reddit that he's doing the data refinement. It spelled out Egan on it, so somehow that like you're able to access like subconscious thoughts. It seems like through the computer to get like what you actually think, or maybe it's like someone in it. Also another theory I saw, like the little Asian girl that's like the boss. Theory is that's Adam Scott and his dead wife's child.
Oh wow, that would be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be a crazy one.
Right.
It's kind of fun that it's fun to have a show that can like have all these different theories and stuff.
Yeah, I know. Probably like I hope they kind of like you get some conclusions, but I could see it again, like what we mentioned, it being like Lost, where you just it was more fun to just keep adding questions than trying like, and you go to the Game of Thrones end where it's like you have all these different threads and storylines and like trying to wave it, like finish it in a compelling, satisfying end just gets more and more difficult, and then eventually it's just going to blow up. But I don't know, we'll see. We'll
see. It's been. I hope it's not the last of our reign. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say it's not.
Yeah.
All right. Was
All
that
right.
the last? I think, okay, my one last comment,
Okay.
and this is going back to the start. I wrote this down. Football, though. I had
Okay.
this, and you were saying that, like paying Travis Kelce was such an advantage for the Chiefs because he was top 3 wide receiver getting paid like 50th. Saquon Barkley, $14 million a year, and it's like, what if you're an NFL team, you just look at all the least valued positions and just like dominate it
Yeah,
at
at the top of yeah, I agree with you. Like,
it
don't even look at positions, just look at, like, somehow you just figure out, like, it's kind of like baseball, right? Like, what gets a run, and then you pay for the on-base stuff, so it's like, okay, pay for, like, the world's best center, probably even, like, world's best, like, punter, like, that's probably worth, like, a good amount more than what they're currently paid.
Kicker?
Like linebackers, safeties, just, it's like, if you're, like, the best at that, but then you have an average whatever, you could probably do pretty well. But it seems like NFL
because you can get more of them.
Yeah.
More of those guys. Maybe.
Yeah. Because everyone's just trying to chase, like, zig when others zag, right? Because everyone's just trying to chase, like, the elite QB, the elite cornerback, and, like, it'd be like, because Jalen Hurts, is like, he's elite, but he's not. Like, you could, like, and I feel like a team is just scared of, because it's like just common wisdom, but, like, just really kind of punt on. And I guess the Niners have tried it, right? Where it's like, you just have a game manager QB, and then you just have elite everywhere else, and, like, that's like, it's worked kind of well, but, like, they haven't won a Super Bowl, right? So,
McCaffrey's injury this year.
But it's like, also, like, they're like, that's kind of a small sample size, and I think that's the problem with the NFL, is that the baseball, the true benefit, I think, is you have so many games where you can actually put theories out there, and they actually get real life feedback, because you just have so many games on what works. The NFL, there's just so much variance, so they see it like, it doesn't work for one team. It's like, no, it doesn't work, but it's like, we don't have enough sample size to actually, like, determine if this actual idea is actually valid or not. And I think people just don't understand that,
Like, one of the benefits, and this is just going back, but, like, one of the nice things when Notre Dame was playing well was, like, the quarterback ran a lot, and then you have, and we had the running back would be like the lead blocker, almost like a fullback. So you just have an extra blocker than if a running back hands the ball off. Like, why not just run Wildcat every now and then?
Yeah.
Like,
or even, it doesn't have to be like Wildcat, but it's like, you really have to make someone think that you're going to run, right? Like, because then it's like, if you don't, then it just completely removes it's like double-sided. One, they know what you're doing, so you're more predictable, but then they can be less predictable. It's like a double whammy of, like, pain, I guess, or disadvantage that you have when you don't have it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think you should have more packages, And I think too, like, another thing is maybe the quarterback doesn't have to always be one guy. Like, if you have a good situational dual
QB.
Not necessarily 2 on the field at the same time, but, like, okay, well, it's 3rd and long. Like, okay, well, we'll throw in this guy. It's 2nd and short. All right, we'll throw in this guy. Like, switch out wideouts all the time. We switch out running backs. We switch out tight ends.
Line, edge, but we never switch out a QB.
It's a part of the formation. Just make it. It would just be interesting. Like, if you had a Jordan Love and a Justin Fields, like, these guys have, like, very different athletic abilities.
The weird thing about Pittsburgh is, like, they had a good chance to, like, have that, right? Just, like, have Justin Fields, like, line up as a running back, and then either he runs it or he throws it, right? And you could, like, throw it back at each other, or, like, you toss it and then it could be a throw. Like, you would put so much stress on the defense on, like, what's going to happen, that they'd be bound to make mistakes, and you could just, because, like, Justin Fields can throw a bomb, right? Like, it's maybe his reads aren't right, but, like, he can throw a bomb. And if you have, like, someone wide open, like, you could have so many home run plays, I would imagine, with that it's like, even if it doesn't work twice, if it works, like, the 3rd time, that makes the times where it didn't work so, who cares, right? It's just so valuable of the opportunities you would get. And I think
you also get a little learning.
Yeah, like NFL is like the most scared to like actually reinvent the wheel. Like, oh, now like, oh, NFL is great. We're actually going for a fourth down, but it took like a fucking decade to get to that point.
I
Like
know.
it's just it's so conservative.
They make these changes that seem so big and different, but it's like, oh, a guy like started motion, then he like cut back the other way. Wow. Yeah. It's like, all right, guys. Well, I don't know. I just would love to see. I wish they had an OOTP for the NFL because I would just it's a lot of fun with it. And I have been getting back into OOTP. I'm jacked up. The Brewers are rocking. So
yeah, we'll have to do a Brewers episode at some point.
How many days until Brewers report?
I think they might already. And I think first spring training is February 22nd. So like 10, 11 days.
Oh, wow. 10 days till the Brewers speak. Okay, cool. We'll have a little, maybe we'll have a little.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to do is get into chess. I want to get into chess, Sam, so we can play some chess for our viewers someday.
Oh, all right. That'd be kind of interesting to do like a live game. Yeah. Mix it up. All right. This was good.
All right. Like and subscribe.
Episode 10.
Until next week. Episode 10. All right.